Hello and welcome to episode 483 of Fergo and the Freak. I'm that bloke from Rugby League Project, Andrew Ferguson. You can find me on Twitter at AndrewRLP. And join me as always is the glorious LeagueFreak. You can also find on Twitter at LeagueFreak. How you going there, mate?
I'm going really well, Andrew. Hey, guess what? There's something that I've got to bring up to you that we haven't talked about because you haven't been on the podcast for a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, because you said you don't really care too much about our listeners, but we won't talk about that. Remember we were talking about Andrew Webster?
When was this? But yeah, I mean, go on.
Yeah.
I don't remember talking much about him.
Talking about Andrew Webster, the footy coach, not the irrelevant idiot.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. Now it makes sense. I thought you were talking about that other dickhead.
And I'm talking about him, and I'm like, oh yeah, and he went over to England, and you're like, no, he didn't, you fucking idiot, right? And I'm like, I swear he did. I was informed by Johnny Liu that he, in fact, did go over and was an assistant coach over in England for some time.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, who cares about assistant coaches, though?
Yeah, who gives a fuck? But still, it was interesting that I knew he'd gone over to England. It was in my brain.
That's a weird thing to have stored in your brain. I didn't know he'd gone over there. But there you go.
Yeah. Hang on, I'll tell you who he played for. Hang on.
I was going to say, I yield to your statistical awesomeness.
Hang on. I'm trying to find it. He was telling me. Okay. So I was right about Andrew Webster. This is what Johnny Liu told me. Johnny, who's the St. Helens fan that come on after the trial game against St. Helens. He said he went over, he was an assistant to Michael Morgan at Hull KR. James Webster is his brother. And then that's why Richard Agar is currently his assistant coach at the Warriors. Because he formed links.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. So we get to the bottom of stuff. Hey, I'm just glad that I wasn't making it up in my head, quite honestly.
I think, too, if I remember rightly, when we're talking about that, I might have said several times that I wasn't sure because I was going off guesswork. No, I'm not saying it's a defence because I've never really followed Andrew. I remembered that he was an assistant at the Tigers and at Penrith, and that was pretty much the extent of it.
I was just so confused that it was in my brain, and I'm like, well, why am I thinking this if it didn't happen? But apparently it did, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm not crazy. I'll have to bring that up on the podcast.
Still not crazy yet.
Still not crazy.
Good work. You've
17 days, not crazy.
So, hey, I've got to ask you a question.
Yes.
Are you wearing your thongs?
I'm not wearing my thongs at the moment, hey.
Are you wearing just one of them?
No. Why would I only wear one thong unless I found it?
Thongless. That's the way to go.
I saw your tweet about thongs, all right? And we confused, I think it was someone from England because we're talking about wearing thongs and they thought we were talking about the undergarment.
Yes.
And you tweeted out about me wearing thongs, both sorts of thongs.
Yeah, you're going to take a picture and post it up there of yourself wearing all of your thongs.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen?
Nah.
Oh, man.
I only wear thongs on my feet. Occasionally I'll put one on top of my head, but that's when...
Well, I mean, that's where most of them go, the ones that the English know of.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. It's been a pretty interesting week in football.
Yeah, it's been weird. Hey, so, we've had 3 of the weirdest games I think I've seen in one round ever.
Yes. And for me, one of them was not one of the floggings.
Oh, really? What was it?
The Storm Panthers game.
Yeah, that was insane.
As the Storm got out to a 14-0 lead, and their line speed in defence in that first 20, 25 minutes was fucking insane. And Penrith could not find a way through it. And then they did. And that was it.
And it was I said going in, if the Panthers beat the Storm in this game, it might be time to hand them the trophy. And so when the Storm come out and they start kicking their ass, go up 14-0, I'm like, well, there goes that. And then the Panthers went on, what was it, like 36-2 run?
Yeah, something like that.
And it's like, well, if you can get off to a start like that and you're the Storm and you're at home, and they obviously really wanted that game, and it still didn't really matter. It's like, fuck. Like that was one of those games. Like you could see the Storm at the end of it, even in the press conference and everything. It was just like, that just was what it was. It's like, holy shit, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, they just didn't have an answer.
Mm.
You know? And the good thing too is that in the first half, Luai was pretty quiet and very much parked on one side of the field as if he thought Cleary was still out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like he came into the sheds and Ivan Cleary's walked up to him and says, "Hey mate, you do know Nathan's not out there, yeah?" And he's like, "Oh," and he comes out in the second half, but he's everywhere and he's just fucking insane. I was like, "You stupid bastard." No, it was great that second half. He was phenomenal.
Has he got the best footwork and step of any half not called Benji Marshall?
It's like very high on the list, yeah.
Yeah, like it is. He was putting on footwork around the middle of the field in that second half where he was just leaving guys, just standing and like they had him and then he was like 10 meters away with a couple of steps and he just tore him up along with all of his teammates. But yeah, that felt like one of those games where it was like, you know, if this can happen to the Storm, what chance does everyone else have? You know, It's kind of weird.
The one step he's got, which I absolutely love, is the one where he's running towards the line and then steps backwards.
Yes, and like there's very few people that can do that sort of shit. I used to be able to do that shit when I played footy, where you can step backwards, and you come straight out of, you know, a tackling zone for an opposition, and so you're just gone. You that's it. You're gone. You know, It's amazing. He's such a good player. He's so underused by Penrith and New South Wales. It's crazy.
He really is. Now, you did do a very good review of the Origin. I just wanted to add one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more of just an asking you a question because it's sort of dawned on me a little bit watching the Origin this series.
Mm-hmm.
I think New South Wales have one game plan, and that is let's play Tedesco as if he's Paul Gallen.
It does feel a lot like that, doesn't it?
So once they get into the attacking zone, and it's like third or fourth tackle, Tedesco gets the ball.
Mm.
And then the next tackle, Tedesco gets the ball. The next Tedesco gets the ball. And it's almost as if... I was watching Tedesco closely because he copped a lot of criticism, some of it fair enough in the first game. Watching in the second game, he wasn't calling for the ball either.
No.
It's just, bam, give it to Tedesco. And I'm like, why is this the game plan? And why is this the only game plan?
Yeah, and like you and me we were talking about Tedesco's form, I think, at the end of last year, probably the last third of last year, and then going into this year as well. And it's just, you know, everyone retires, you know, and I'm not saying he's ready to retire, but eventually you slow down. And he's slowing down from such a high level. And I think that this is the point of his career where he's got to almost, and all of them have to do it. I remember Fittler had to do it. Johns had to do it. Lockyer to a lesser extent. Benji had to do it big time because his athleticism was so much of his game early in his career, where you've got to go into other parts. And I think that he's got to relearn how to be effective with his experience now rather than his athleticism. And it's the wrong time to be learning it at Origin.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I can't pin the entire, like a lot of people are. I can't pin the entire series loss on Tedesco.
No.
Because I think that was entirely a game plan and it made no sense whatsoever. There was not enough shape or line running thrown at Queensland at all.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it showed the complete lack of coaching ability of Fittler and also, you know, all of his assistant coaches.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd be ditching a lot of them.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's the only way to do it is everyone leaves.
Yep.
Because the way they've got it running at the moment, it's so outdated.
Yeah, it's to the point where it's hard to pinpoint a player who's doing something wrong because they're all playing something that's different to what they normally do when they're playing club football.
Yeah.
So it's abundantly clear that this is a game plan and a strategy that they're going into the match with. So until you get the right coaching structure in place and get the players back playing their normal style of football, can you then, assess which players should be there and which ones shouldn't? And it sounds eerily similar to what's going on at the Tigers at the moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess let's talk about it. I tweeted out like coming into halftime when, the Cowboys hit 42, and I was like, this is what, or anybody that knows anything about history of the game is like, they were keyed up for it at that point. It's weird to say, but I think the Cowboys left about 18 points on the table. Like, there were just a couple of times where they should have passed the ball and they held it a bit too long, or, they took the tackle and things like that. They did some like just silly things, and they were all excited. I understand why they did it, but it was just crazy to watch that happen in the modern game.
The thing I found crazy about it is those 74 points came in the last 66 minutes of the game, because the game was 0-0 after 14 minutes.
Wow.
That's 66 minutes, 74 points in 66 minutes. And I know we've roasted him before on here, and very, very rightfully so. Nofaluma, dog shit in defence. That's possibly one of the worst defensive games he's ever had. Every guess he made, because that's all he does when he's in the defensive line, he guesses. Every guess he made, every action he took, the wrong one every fucking time. And the number of times I saw him way up in front of the centre in the defensive line, Drinkwater just before he even gets the ball, looks over and goes, "Where's Noffel? Oh, he's over there."
Yeah,
I'll just...
yeah, behind the attacking line, behind it.
Where the fuck are you going?
Even fucking Jared Croker was looking at it and saying, "What's that guy doing?"
Yeah, Croker's looking at it going, "Mate, you're really bad at defence."
He's like, he's half a step out of being in the right place.
And I was going to make a tweet last night, and it was going to be players who the West Tigers could sign to be an upgrade on David Nofaluma as a winger. And the first name I put on the list was Oliver Gildart. And I thought, no, I can't do this here. I'm going to say this for the podcast. Which other players, and even past ones, because I was going to put Daniel Fitzhenry on there. Which
Shane
other wingers
Werrett?
could... Oh, Shane Werrett.
Shane Werrett. He's been a defender than that.
I'm going to throw one at you. A bloke who never actually played in first grade. Darren Clark. Do you remember him?
Yes, I do. A sprinter.
He got signed by the West Tigers. And Balmain Tigers. And he played reserve grade for like half a season.
What about, it's touch and go, Dwayne Chambers, former disgraced steroid-using sprinter that was signed by the Castleford Tigers at one point.
Couldn't be a bad option.
The only person that would be worse, there was this very famous rugby union player called Gareth Thomas that signed with, I think it was the Celtic Crusaders they were called at the time.
Yes.
And in his first game, his first tackle, he got knocked senseless, and his second tackle, he got knocked senseless. And I remember watching that game saying they should take him off the field because this is a duty of care thing at this point. He didn't get any better from there. But yeah, he's probably the only one that's worse that I've seen.
How about Greg Smith?
Ooh, that's a tough one. They say that's a tough one.
There you go. That's the area that Nofaluma is in.
Yeah. The thing that got me about that game is there was one point in the second half and the Cowboys just, every run through the middle of the ruck was like all of them were Jason Taumalolo. Like they were all making about 15 metres, the Cowboys. And as I'm watching that, I was thinking like, what would happen if the Tigers got in this mood and the Panthers were in the mood that they were in the second half against the Storm? Like, could they score 100 points? And like, but here's the thing. I'm not even fucking joking, hey? Like, could they score 100 points?
It's doable. Let's go through some of the team stats for this game because it is lopsided as fuck.
Okay.
Run meters. Tigers made 1,011. Cowboys made 2,393.
Wow.
It gets worse. Post-contact meters. I've never seen a post-contact meters number this high. The Tigers had 347. The Cowboys 712.
Holy shit.
The Cowboys post-contact meters is only 299 less than all run meters for the Tigers.
Yeah, that says it all. That says it all right there, eh?
Line breaks, Cowboys 13-1. Tackle breaks, Cowboys 54-28.
Tackle breaks. That's not even just missed tackles. That's tackle breaks.
Average set distance, Tigers 29.76 meters, Cowboys 55.67. Kick return meters, West Tigers 70, Cowboys 250. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Dummy passes, Tigers 0, Cowboys 36.
36.
Tackles made, Cowboys 196, Tigers 376. Ineffective tackles, Cowboys 9, Tigers 24.
Oh man,
it's insane.
That's crazy.
The most run meters for the Tigers was Nofaluma with 113. Most of that was running past where he should have been to make tackles, I assume. And the Cowboys, I think, had Drinkwater had 234 meters. Tom Dearden, a halfback, had 202 meters.
Yeah, that was great.
Nanai had 226 meters. Neem had 208 meters.
That's nuts.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So as much as I was hanging shit on Nofaluma for being dog shit, because he was, that's a failure of every single West Tigers player across the board to have that many players in that many different positions all making over 200 meters.
Yeah, that's like there's no one in that Tigers side that you were able to look at and say, well, he tried. There just was no one. Third highest score of all time in the whole history of the National Rugby League going back to, fucking 1908. The biggest turnaround between two in-season fixtures, I know that for certain, and it was 126?
122, I think it was.
Okay.
And the previous record was the Sharks Parramatta, which was about 108.
Yeah, it was much lower, yeah.
They fucking flogged it.
Yeah, it smashed it.
And I've been meaning to check, but I think this might be, if it's not the first round, it'd be the first one in a long time where 3 scores over 50 have been racked up in a round.
Oh, really?
It'll be the first time we've had a 70, a 60, and a 50 anyway.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah.
And even it gets worse for the Tigers because their next 2 games are against the other 2 teams who scored 50-plus points this week. So they've got the Sharks who racked up 50 against the Dragons, and then the week after that they've got the Knights who won 66, whatever it was, today as well.
It's so difficult to get beyond 60. Like you've got to not only be on fire, but you've got to have the game continue to march in your direction to get to 60. And even just then to get to 66 is like, it's almost like, when they talk about the aerodynamics of once you go over 200 miles an hour, how like getting to 200 miles an hour is very difficult. But then the step up to 210 miles an hour is absolutely outrageously difficult from there. And it's almost like once you get over 60, it's the same thing. Like to get to 66 is kind of outrageous. To get to 68 is like absolutely everything's gone your way. And it just keeps going from there. They got 74.
Yeah. It's fucking nuts. So you're given that the Tigers, the Dragons, and the Bulldogs, the bottom three teams, all got absolutely fucking flogged this week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the ladder. And essentially, the top 6 teams on the ladder have all got buys next week. Penrith, Broncos, Storm all have actual buys. The Sharks have the Tigers, the Raiders have the Dragons, and the Rabbitohs have the Bulldogs. Parramatta also has a buy. So the Warriors are the only ones who've got a game coming up, I think. Was that a buy this week? I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, the top 6 teams they're all basically all going to get 2 points.
I knew that when I saw the Bulldogs were getting flogged, and things are going weird at the Bulldogs.
Well, they still have the worst points difference in the comp, and surprisingly enough, considerably worse defence than the Tigers this year, even after what the Tigers turned out on the other day.
Yeah, that surprised me because I looked that up too. I was like, you wonder how it's even possible. They brought in Cameron Ciraldo, and they spent a lot of money. And look, Kikau hasn't been there, so that's a bit of an issue for them. But, you know, Kikau isn't going to absolutely shore, and as good as a defender as he is, he's not going to shore up the defence of the entire side like they need. And I just wonder, like, do you think Cameron Ciraldo looks tired?
It's interesting. I'm wondering how long before he is given a pillow by Gus. Gus hasn't said anything yet, and he certainly hasn't turned up to training yet, which is usually a good sign.
Yeah, because he's going to.
Oh yeah. That's undeniable. That's going to happen. The one other thing I found really interesting is someone in the media suggested is Adam O'Brien the next coach likely to get sacked, and I went, ooh, whoever wrote that. Putting their dick on the line.
I know, I saw that, eh?
There's someone from the John's group of media personnel will be coming out, shutting that shit down real fast.
Yeah.
But, you know, they responded and come out and put this 66-point score on, so the Knights can lose all their games for the rest of the year. Yeah. They'll be hanging their hat on that for the rest of the season.
They will. I mean, the highlight of their year at this point, up until today, was that they lost to the Panthers because Jerome Luai has hair. So now they can move on to this big win over the Bulldogs. Which
and an actual win.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Just like the Tigers were dining on that 66 points that rattled up against the Cowboys until this game.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because when the Panthers were playing and afterwards, it was kind of one of those games where I actually watched after the match, and they had Cooper Cronk and Greg Alexander were breaking down the Panthers a bit, and it was fantastic. I was messaging Nadine, and we were both saying how good it was to listen to, because it was one of those contests that we all kind of watched, and it was like, well, now that fucking what are we supposed to do for the rest of the year? Because if Penrith can do that, what chance do the best teams really have against them? It was kind of a weird game like that. And I lost my train of thought.
That's fine.
I can't remember what I was going to say.
Well, let me get you back on track by talking more about the West Tigers. No, I'm not going to talk that much about it.
Yeah.
I made a tweet today.
Yes.
Maybe you can improve it.
Okay.
I said the West Tigers are terminally unwell. Chairman Lee's a glass of water, believing it can be the cure, but it's futile.
Mm-hmm.
Pascoe is a potato, believing it's a 3-course meal, and oblivious to the illness. And Sheens is the illness.
Yeah, that's pretty good, actually.
Zero leadership, zero accountability, zero progress. There's one player contract at the Tigers that sums up the level of incompetence of those running the club. Mm-hmm. It's David Nofaluma. He's on the longest deal there, and you know he's not on cheap money either.
Yeah, that's
Who signs a winger on a 4-year deal, for fuck's sake?
It has to be like a Brian To'o sort of like local junior. He's making 200 metres a game. Great. Like, it has to tick every box. The only ones that I would ever sign for that long that are in the NRL right now. It's like Josh Adokar, To'o, and that might be it. I wouldn't sign Selwyn Cobbo to 4 years.
No. Well, there was a chat that was being had in private with the boss, Nadine, and she said, how long before Sheens is going to get sacked?
Yes.
And I said, he's a cancer. They're not going to throw him under the bus because, you can't run over cancer. They won't get rid of him. He's a media darling. They love him. And she's just sent us a message on Twitter saying, this is a news article from about an hour ago saying West Tigers are set to parachute Benji Marshall into the head coaching role in 2024.
Now here's the thing. I saw where they said Benji. You will love this. This is fucking look. I can't even be mad at Tim Sheens about this. Tim Sheens is going to keep his title.
Of course he is.
But Benji Marshall is going to coach the team. Right now, when someone keeps their title, they also keep the salary.
That's right.
And they also lose all the responsibility because then it's Benji that's doing coaching.
Exactly right. Zero accountability. Let's put someone else in front of the bus. Yeah.
The crazy thing is, Tim Sheens last year comes into the club and they were just starting to move in a half-decent direction. I'm not saying they were going great, but at least they were moving in a direction. Mm-hmm. He comes into the club. He says, you know what this club needs is for me to coach them. So you need to sack Mike Maguire. So they sack Maguire. Sheens takes over. They win the wooden spoon. He says, it's all right, though, because I'm going to clear out all those players. I'm going to spend big. I've got a bunch of players. We're going to move some players and stuff. They're right now they might not be in last place at the moment because the Bulldogs might have moved down to last.
No, they're definitely last.
Okay, they're still in last place. So they haven't gone anywhere.
Nope.
Right? They're still going to go to Tim Sheens and say, Tim, what should we do to fix this?
I'm gonna pull out a stat which is it doesn't really say anything, but I'm going to use it anyway just to justify how shit Sheens is.
Okay.
From 2000
mm-hmm.
to 2021,
mm-hmm.
how many times did the Tigers concede 70 points in a game?
I'm going to... Man, 70 points stands out. Is it only once?
0.
Okay. Oh, 2021. Sorry, yeah. I was going up to today, yeah. Okay.
But from 2022, when Sheens came back to the club, till now, they've done it twice.
No way.
Because they also lost 72-6 or whatever it was against the Roosters last year.
See, I forgot about that one. Wow. Man.
Thanks, Tim. Prick.
He's under contract, isn't he? He's been under contract for next year at least.
I was fairly certain he had a 4-year deal. It was going to be 2 years as head coach and 2 years as coaching director to help Robbie and Benji in their role. So I could be wrong about that, but I'm fairly certain it was 4 years. It's definitely at least 3, though.
By the way, hasn't Robbie Farah disappeared out of this picture?
Yeah, it was supposed to be Farah and Marshall as the coaches. But I think push Farah to the side. I dare say they'll put Farah to the side so that they can throw Benji under the bus first, and then Farah will come in behind him, and then they'll throw him under the bus, and then they'll get Sheens back.
I wonder if Farah has looked at the lay of the land and said, you know what, let's just not have my face around for a bit. Let's not be associated with this.
I don't know, because I don't think Farrell was ever strongly pushed to be a head coach there. And I'm not sure that that's something that he's ever had aspirations for. Because to my knowledge, he's not done any... He's had opportunities, I guess, to fill in as the assistant coach, in head coaching role at the club in the last year and a half. And he's not done it. I remember last year they brought in Brett Kermorley from the lower grades. And Farrell was there as assistant coach then when they'd already made this decision. They never brought him up. So I'm not convinced that Farrell wants to be head coach, which is why they've just sort of, all the media's been lumped on Benji Marshall's going to do the job instead. I think Farrell just wants to be the assistant coach.
Yeah, I agree. You don't get that feeling, do you? You just don't get that feeling about him.
And
I don't know that Benji wants to really be a head coach either. I think he just wants to try and help out.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And parachuting him in next year, he's not done any coaching yet. What a great apprenticeship. He's watched a team that was last continue being last. Yeah, great.
Well, at least
he's also lost the halfback, so he's got to start next year with a brand new halfback.
Yeah, but at least the rest of their salary cap is tied up in players that are getting flogged every week, hey?
Yeah, it's great.
But
hey, 12 scored. We've got that. Thanks, Alex. You saved us. Okay, people are sick of the West Tigers talk. What else have we got? There was something you sent me the other day.
What did I send you the other day?
From the Poms.
It was from the Poms. Let me go back through my...
I found it. Do you want me to read it out?
Yeah, read it out. Go on.
The RFL today shared the annual report and financial statements for 2022 with clubs and other members of the Rugby League Council ahead of next month's annual general meeting, blah, 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 blah. The RFL has also confirmed significant increases in participation numbers in the first half of 2023.
Stop. I never, ever believe the Rugby Football League's participation numbers. And I'm going on the fact that they were given participation numbers to their government, and the government did an audit of the participation numbers and dropped their funding. So now, go on.
Reflecting the positive impact of last year's World Cup. The draft group financial statements detail a loss of £987,000 for 2022.
Sounds positive to me.
Following a profit the previous year of £1.059 million. And cash reserves of £7.9 million. Turnover was up by 70% from £24.76 million in 2021 to £42.152 million last year, largely as a result of the World Cup, with sponsorship increasing from $1.668 million to $5.744, and government funding from $8.351 to $11.03 million, mainly due to grants received by the Rugby League World Cup Limited for delivery of the tournament in 2022.
Isn't that funny? Do you remember when there was somebody, and his name was LeagueFreak, and he was saying, you know what, the Rugby Football League soaks money out of the World Cup. And people were like, oh, no, they don't. They don't get anything out of the World Cup. That's the World Cup's money. They've got nothing to do with it. Turns out they fucking do soak up money out of the World Cup. Not that it mattered. They managed to lose money anyhow.
Yeah, so they took a lot out of there.
Yep.
And so out of reading that, I really, really, really want to see the International Rugby League's bloody financial statement. Distributions to clubs were significantly reduced from £8.356 million in 2021 to $5.278 million in 2022. So that's a almost $3.1 million pound drop. Relating in the main to the reduction in distributions to Championship and League One clubs resulting from the sport's lower levels of revenue. The board and executive team had budgeted to make a profit in 2022 of £394,000 in order to continue the financial turnaround from the previous 3 years. And
they failed, so they all stood down. Not really, though. No one ever stands down.
No.
Just kidding.
Despite strict cost control and management of spend by the executive, the group has been faced with another challenging year. Oh, it's always the year's fault. Fucking calendars. Let's get rid of all the calendars.
Fucking 12 months. We budgeted for 10.
What a bastard. 4 key areas are identified, of which insurance is the most significant, with costs rising from £705,000 to $1.4 million. It doubled. The result of a significant premium increase, which was not able to be budgeted for. This cost is incurred on behalf of the whole game as it arises from liability insurance placed by the RFL on behalf of its clubs. How did that double?
Well, at the moment in the UK, there is a lot of pearl clutching. And look, me and you have been, we take concussion very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes to a little bit of pearl clutching level over there. And that's where you end up where they're doing these trials of laws where you can't tackle someone, below their belly button and above their nipples without getting penalised.
So those are decisions that are made to try and prove to the insurers that they're making the game safer in order to possibly try and make the insurance costs reduced. Well,
no, they're more of a symptom of some of the hysteria that is being drummed up over in the UK. And a lot of it does come from the effects that they're seeing in rugby union players. And from everything that I've been taken in, and I haven't looked into it too seriously, but just generally, every so often something will come up in the news and I'll have a read of it. It seems like concussion might be a bit more of an issue in rugby union for whatever reason. Okay. And I don't know what that reason is because, as I said, I haven't researched that enough, but it seems so it's a bigger problem over there than it is for rugby league. But as always, you're going to get the effect rolling into rugby league because they've got half the same name. And I think that is happening in rugby league at the moment, and that's why you're starting to see some of the insurance premiums going up. And I think that is going to continue. I think it's going to continue for well beyond what we've currently seen in those rate rises out of insurance companies.
I wonder if it's because in union, it's because there is a lot more contact with head and neck going on, just with all the mauls, the scrums. They put a lot more intensity in and push into that. Mm-hmm. So the risk, I dare say, on the head and neck area is probably more enhanced. Just not because of the level of impact, but the more frequent number of impacts.
Yeah.
That might be what it is. But, when they're going in for the maul, they're kind of leading with the top of the head and the back of their neck because they're going down.
Yeah, exactly.
They put the head in. So I wonder if, that could be what it is. And rugby union won't change its rules to sort things out because they're very, very reluctant to change any rules.
Yeah, rugby union's just going to not change its rules until something super dramatic happens, and I think that's going to be a commercial thing that happens personally. But I think that what they're seeing is that crossover between the two rugby codes over there, and they're basically being treated as one by insurance companies, and that's unfortunate because they've got very different dynamics in their tackles and their running and all that sort of stuff. But the Rugby Football League, I don't think that they're doing themselves any favours either with how they're looking at concussion. And look, I don't think we really do ourselves any favours over here in Australia with how we deal with concussion either in rugby league.
Oh no, everyone's scared to admit and accept that the game can cause brain injuries.
Yeah.
So what they do as a way to try and counter is saying, we're going to make tweaks to try and mitigate the impact on the head areas. And hopefully the fact that we've done that shows that we care, and therefore you can't sue us because we've shown that we care.
And I think that they're worried about if they do too much specific research within rugby league on the sport of rugby league, that the outcome will be that then you'll have a whatever it is, a number at the end of the day where they'll say, I don't know whether they say, in every 1,000 tackles you're going to get 3 major concussions or something. I think that what they're really concerned with is having the data. And right now they don't really have the data, and so there's a lot of guesswork going on, and I think they're more comfortable working with guesswork than they are with solid data.
Well, it's it's what it is something they've been doing a lot with in the past.
Yeah.
So central events are the next factor identified, with ticketing revenues for the 2022 Challenge Cup final in quotation marks below expectations and a significant cost absorbed to stage the mid-season international, which gave the England men's and women's teams a chance to perform ahead of the World Cup held in the autumn. The RFL also had to deal with restructuring as part of the planned realignment of the sport. RL Commercial, which was formed in 2022 as a joint venture between the RFL and Super League Europe, has been assigned the rights of all the commercial properties of the professional sport and is charged with selling those properties as well as staging the central events. The resulting restructuring has produced a, in quotation marks, smaller executive team in 2023 at a lower cost than in prior years, but there was some one-off restructuring costs accounted for in 2022.
Yeah.
Sounds like an excuse.
Does, doesn't it? They love restructure in England Rugby League. They love restructuring and starting a new company, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
And saying, oh, this is a new company, this one. It's not like the old company. It's different. I know a lot of the same people work there, but it's very different. I know it's got the same name.
But the letterhead looks different. We used a different colour.
Yeah. That used to be red. Now it's like a blue and a grey colour.
That's right. And we used Comic Sans.
Because
that's what all the pro companies are doing.
Yeah. Used to be based in Leeds. Now it's in fucking Salford. Very different.
Very different. Finally, the strategic report notes that the postponement of the Rugby League World Cup led to the refunding of a substantial number of tickets which had already been purchased. Other revenue streams were also impacted in 2021 and did not recover in 2022 when the tournament was rescheduled. Clearly, while the World Cup was rationalised during the latter part of 2021, there was certainly a cost of keeping the tournament functional during that period and retaining key members of the management team and staff.
Isn't it interesting that you're talking about the World Cup so much? I thought the Rugby Football League had nothing to do with the World Cup. That's what I kept being told over and over again. Oops.
You weren't right, were you?
Oops.
Oops.
I love it when I love it. I tell you what I love. I did this last week. I would have people before Twitter was shut down by Elon Musk, and I would talk about the Rugby League World Cup and how it was losing money, and I'd have people saying, how do you know it's lost money? And it's like, I've been watching World Cups make money and lose money for so fucking long. You know which ones made money and lost money, you know? And they very rarely actually make money. Like, as long as they don't lose heaps of money, it's a success.
Yeah.
This one lost heaps of money. And just watch, okay? It won't come out this year, it won't come out next year, but you wait a couple of years down the track, you'll start seeing articles come out and they'll be like, wow, that World Cup actually lost a lot of money. Because that's how it works.
The easiest way to tell is the organisers will keep saying how successful this World Cup was. That's the giveaway.
Yeah, and they won't point to any data points either. They'll say it was wonderful. The competition was fantastic, and it's like, how much money did you make? Oh, it was just everyone really enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, we got new sponsors and new investment opportunities. There's always opportunities.
There were growth segments within the sport because of it.
Yeah. Crowds were different.
Yeah, the crowds were sensational. What were the numbers? They were sensational numbers.
Yeah, some of them were bigger than some other crowds we've had at that ground before. Oh, great.
They basically Donald Trump everything, hey?
They do.
The numbers, they were sensational. They're the best numbers ever.
We've got all the best numbers.
What about the crowds? What were the crowd numbers? Oh, the crowds. You should have seen the crowds. They're incredible. I was at the crowds. I saw many crowds, lots of crowds.
You had the best crowds. Rugby League World Cup 2021 was a separate company, but part of the RFL group.
What? Stop, Andrew. What do you mean? What do you mean it was part of the same group? They were different groups. I was told this the whole time.
Let me read it again, because surely you're wrong. You're always wrong. So let me just check.
Okay.
Rugby League World Cup 2021, a separate company, but part of the RFL group.
Dun, dun, dun.
Therefore has its results included in the RFL's draft group 2022 financial statements.
So basically, what they're saying is the Rugby League World Cup group is like having a parasitic twin. Like, it's technically it's not you because you've got your own mandible, But when you swallow, the cunt next to you gets fat.
So what we can deduce from that little line there, that's a pretty big, important line in this whole article, is the year before, when there was no World Cup, the RFL made money. And the year where they did have a World Cup, and the World Cup entity was added to the RFL, so instead of being one business, it's now two businesses, it ran at a loss. Or not ran at a loss, it lost money compared to the year before, considerably.
Yes.
Yeah. Deduce from that what you will, people. But I would suggest that the World Cup was not the overwhelming success that everyone wants to tell you it was. It may have, at the absolute best, and I don't believe this, broke even.
Yeah, I think the only way it would have broken even is if they managed to negotiate grants from the government that was so outrageous that I would be disgusted if I was a British taxpayer.
Pretty much, yeah.
But I think that I think we'll find out it's the biggest loss-making World Cup we've had since 2000. And it might be more just based on inflation. The number might be more, but I think it will be behind that, the 2001.
So there's actually more to the group. So there's the RFL, Rugby League World Cup. It says here, the group also includes the Rugby Football League Investments 2020 Limited, which is the vehicle through which the Sport Survival Fund loans have been administered. And its balance sheet reflects the long-term liability in relation to the loans made to eligible entities over the last 3 years. So they've got a third company there that they were taking out loans with.
Got lots of companies, lots of fine companies, great companies.
I was watching a documentary just last night about Bernie Madoff and about how he had certain businesses there and he used them for, if you know about Bernie Madoff. Ponzi scheme. Mm-hmm. Thing is, his one made money. This one's gone backwards. It's like a reverse Ponzi.
You're doing it wrong.
Oh, that's wrong. It's not a Ponzi. It's not a pyramid. No. It's just a bucket with a hole in it.
It's who owns Odsal? Who owns Odsal? They can't tell you.
No. Mark Lovering, the RFL's Director of Participation and Development, said, in addition to the £26.4 million of capital investment enabled by the Created by Capital Grants program, the World Cup, the most inclusive Rugby League World Cup in history,
inclusive, very inclusive. A lot of people were included.
Has driven a significant increase in participation, particularly amongst female and wheelchair athletes.
Okay. What's the numbers? He didn't say any numbers, did he?
Hang on. The numbers are coming. I just had to go to the next page.
Okay.
This is all a quote.
Okay.
The World Cup winning England wheelchair rugby league squad has been very active in various community initiatives in the aftermath of the tournament. This, combined with well over 150 new wheelchairs delivered through Created by, that's the name of the company, has resulted in a 75% increase in participation compared with the same period in 2022, with England Community Lines also winning the inaugural Physical Disability World Cup. The number of registered PDRL players has increased by 60%, and there has been a 54% increase in the number of players taking part in Learning Disability Rugby League. The committed performances by the England women's team have helped to increase the numbers of women and girls participants in 2023 by 15%, again when compared with the same point last year. This figure will continue to rise once figures from the Rugby's program inspired by the World Cup and backed by Sport England are factored in. The core community game, not including education and social as a whole, has seen a 6% increase to date with encouraging growth, particularly amongst junior and youth players.
Look, if that's real, that's great.
Yeah. 6%.
6% is not much. The growth in the women's game, not great. Not great.
Given that it's it's been like the Women's Super League, I think, has been more established and it has more teams than the NRLW does. I'd have thought it probably would have been a bit higher because the England women's team did do quite well.
Do they have more teams?
I'm talking about like when the two comps started. I think they had 6 or 7 teams in the women's one. We only had 4.
Yeah.
They're not too far different now, but I'd be comfortable in saying that the increase in women's rugby league players in Australia and New Zealand has been at a consistently higher percentage than that.
I think that once the NRLW started, and you got to be careful that you don't just get wrapped up in the professional side of it and forget about all the lower grades and stuff. But I feel like that because now that there is spending going on with women's rugby league in Australia, it's probably grown a lot in the last few years, 5 years or so. And I think that we left New Zealand behind a little bit, who were honestly the best in the world for a long time with women's rugby league. And we've got to address that. We've got to sort that out for them, you know?
Absolutely.
And I think that they started off from a pretty low base in the UK, but I think their growth has been a lot slower. And in terms of what you see on the field, I think that it's Australia number 1, then some daylight, then New Zealand number 2, and then lots of daylight, and then probably England number 3. But at least it's going in the right direction if their numbers are to be believed.
Yes, that's the key takeaway.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it there.
Yeah.
What else have we got?
It's a very Rugby Football League is a varied tapestry of many different companies.
Yes.
It's interesting.
Why are there that many companies?
I don't know. Why is the Rugby Football League all of a sudden the one that ran the World Cup? When the fuck did that happen?
I don't know.
How did they get so much money out of the World Cup? Then it turns out they're running the World Cup, just ask them. But then they made a loss while running the World Cup. Man, it's a lot of questions.
There are quite a lot. 2022 Golden Boot Awards.
What about them?
I think
didn't they give it to?
Oh no, that was last year.
Yeah,
I went onto the International Rugby League website and I was looking at the news on there, and that one came up, and I went, "Hey, what now?"
Didn't they give it to Joey Manu?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, that was weird. And they gave it to him. Didn't they give it to him before the semi-finals had been played?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
They need to fucking dissolve it all, hey? It's so stupid. It's so stupid.
It's mad. There was a thing on their website which I did see. I've got to go back to it now. It was an explainer for the 2025 World Cup.
Okay, that they cancelled. Well, it's been cancelled. They didn't cancel it.
This is from the 20th of May. What was this? Oh, we went through this. I'm trying to find anything of any value on the International Rugby League website to try and inform the listeners of what's coming up on the international calendar. And there's nothing.
Yeah, they're an administration that doesn't administer anything at the moment. I had to explain I had one dude that I was explaining how this World Cup has lost money, and you can tell that because the French government looked at the finances and said, we're not putting any money into this. And so they had to cancel the 2025 World Cup. And this person was saying, to prove where are the numbers that say they lost money. And I explained to them, it's like there's a bloody dead body laying in the street. And I'm pointing at it saying, look, man, it's fucking dead. And they're saying, I don't believe you. Where's the autopsy? Like, that's where we're at right now with some people. And I don't understand why anybody would defend what's happened. because these World Cup administrators don't care about anyone. They don't care about the game. But people are so quick to defend them. It's really weird.
Yeah, I think they've got this impression that when you're knocking, the World Cup organisers or the International Rugby League, that you're knocking the game overall and that you must hate it. And
Yeah.
No, we're knocking it because we want the game to be successful. We want it to be growing and getting bigger and better.
Yeah.
But it's not. And that's where that comes from.
Like it makes me angry because these people ruined the game, you know? They're ruining it. They're losing money and they're stuffing it up and they're not being held accountable, so they just are allowed to ruin it some more. And that makes me really angry because I love the international game. It's awesome. And, yeah, I think people take it the wrong way.
They do, yeah. Hey, speaking of the international games, I found out when the next international matches are going to be.
Oh, nice.
I didn't go to the International Rugby League website because they don't know. So I went to the European Rugby League one because they do.
Okay, yep.
October.
Okay, now, are you sure they're not the ones that they had to cancel?
No. These ones are legit.
Rescheduled, yeah, because they'd set up the European Championship, which you and me were actually pretty excited about, but they had to cancel that when 2025 was cancelled, hey?
Yeah. So these next two in October, it's 7th of October, 14th of October. They're not in any championship. It's 2 games by the Netherlands. And the first one is against Albania, which will be their first international match.
Oh, nice.
The second one is against Serbia.
Ooh.
And I dare say Netherlands will probably rack up a cricket score against Albania, and then Serbia will probably do the same back to Netherlands a week later.
Yeah, Serbia's the big dog in continental Europe outside of France.
And then the week after, 21st of October, Spain versus Wales in the European Championship.
It would be cool if it was the full-strength Welsh team and see how Spain lines up against them.
There's going to be some interesting games in there. 21st of October, the whole European Championship kicks off. So Scotland plays Serbia as well. England plays Ireland. France v Italy. Germany versus the Czech Republic. Ukraine versus Norway. And then on the 22nd of October, England plays Tonga.
I wonder if that goes ahead. I have a feeling that's not going to go ahead, huh?
I don't think it will, because if they've got... they're playing Ireland the day before.
I feel like there's some weird thing that they're doing though with their international team. They're not calling it the England Knights, but it's like clearly they're just going to have 2 teams that they run out. I think that's what they decided on. But I think that test series between England and Tonga, I'd be really surprised if it went ahead. So yeah, which sucks. It'd be cool to see, you know.
Well, imagine this. Okay, you don't have to think about whether you like England or not. On the 20th of October, they're listed as playing Scotland in one championship game, and on exactly the same day, they're also playing Tonga. And if there is 2 England sides, why not put them in a double header at the same venue? And then you can go and watch England playing 2 back-to-back games. Obviously, they're 2 different squads. You can watch England play 2 tests back-to-back. That would be absolutely unheard of. And how could that not be something that you could use to draw people in to watch the game?
I'll tell you what, when they held those mid-season test matches last year to give their players a run ahead of the World Cup, the crowd for that was abysmal. Like, it was really terrible. I think that the number that they posted was outrageously more than were actually at the ground. And I actually saw somebody, and I can't remember who it was, and I wish I could remember who it was, but they were saying if you look at it in financial terms, that they spent all of that money to have that fixture mid-season, and then they went into the World Cup and they failed in the World Cup. There wasn't any sort of boost that they got out of that mid-season fixture, and it cost them so much money. You kind of got to get rid of fixtures like that because they don't work and you make no money out of them. Why are you playing them? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's something I've mentioned quite a while ago with the English competition, and they play too many games.
Yeah.
When you're struggling financially, and they may not say that they're struggling, but when the finances are low, don't have so many games. Reduce your overheads by reducing the number of games. You can still get the same or very similar TV rights deal and stuff like that. They want content. You can spread your season out a little bit and make it longer to cover the reduction in games.
Yeah.
And because most of the time, most of the games in the Super League are played at the same time.
Yeah.
Perfect opportunity. Separate them and play them more stretched out like they do in the NRL. You've actually created more content and you can reduce the number of rounds, less games. You're still getting the same amount of money from your TV rights deal, from your sponsors, all this sort of stuff. That's how you start making things smarter and better. Because at the moment, the big problem you've got when you've got as many games as they've got is you're asking the same people, fans, to put their hand in the pocket more often than not, and more often than they need to keep propping the game up the whole time.
Yeah.
You give everyone a bloody bit of relief, and you will produce a better competition because you're not going to have injuries and worn-out players and stuff like that because of the stupidly long season. It just makes sense. And they really need to figure that out really fast because at the moment it's just nonsense.
It really is. And it's there doesn't seem to be a willingness to really want to mix things up too much either. And you would have hoped that IMG was going to be able to come in and say, look, we need to make some real big changes here, but they haven't done that yet. And I'm fine with that because you kind of hope that they sit back and they're observing what's happening a little bit. But it can't go on for too much longer. They do need to make changes.
They really do.
I heard that the next World Cup, and I don't know what year it's going to be held.
2025 is the one they've got penciled in at the moment.
Yeah, I heard that that's too quick for what they need to do, that it might be a year or two after that, which would not be good. I hope it's 2025. But I heard that it's going to be 8 teams and held in Australia.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the NRL's it's going to be run by the NRL, basically. They're going to run a lean, tight ship, get it over and done with, have a World Cup, boom, done, sorted. And it's going to be all but invitation.
I wonder if that's done to try and get some money back into the International Rugby League hands while also reducing overheads as much as possible and just try and get one out of the way so that whoever is supposed to have the 2025 World Cup get an extra 3-4 years piled on top to get themselves organised, possibly France.
Yeah, I would think so, hey. And I think if the NRL woke up tomorrow, say Peter V'landys wakes up tomorrow, he rubs the sleep out of his eyes, gets
actually, it's not sleep, it's bacon.
Sleeps with bacon over his eyes. Yeah, that'd be the life.
Absolutely.
He gets whatever that cream is he puts in his hair.
Brill cream.
Slicks that into it, looks in the mirror, says, yeah, I still got it. And then he
hang on, untucks his shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he says, I still got it. And then he says, you know what? Fuck it. I'm running a World Cup at the end of 2023. I reckon they could do it.
Of course they can.
I reckon they could do it really easy.
What they do is they say, right, let's get on the phone to every single Pacific Island nation and get them all to say yes, and then we'll bring England over.
Yeah.
Because, you need to have a weak team in every World Cup. We've got to make sure the Northern Hemisphere is represented.
Exactly.
And then, we'll go from there.
Well, I think that's basically, I think that's what's going to happen for the next World Cup.
How could it not? If you are going to have more than one team from the Northern Hemisphere, it's more often than not going to be France. And if that's the case, and you want to make it even, you want to have 4 and 4, who else are you going to bring over and who are you going to leave out? If you're going to have Australia, New Zealand, Samoa has to be there, given they made the last final, and Tonga. How do you leave out Papua New Guinea, Fiji? You can't leave them out.
No. And the thing is too, like, I think you and me feel the same way about France. They're grandfathered in for everything they've done for the international game. But at the same time, at the last World Cup, they started to wear that out with me a little bit because they're not turning up when it matters. Like they're talking a really good game. They said we're getting Trent Robinson in. He's looking at our development structure. He's doing coaching and stuff like that. And then they put up another duck egg at a tournament. And you can only do that for so long before it's like, I'm sorry, France, I love you, but we can't keep carrying you when you don't turn up, And they're not alone. There's plenty of other nations that don't turn up when they should. And then we saw the rest of Europe. I mean, the rest of Europe can't play rugby league. And that's not my fault, And anybody that's upset about that, I don't care. If they were good at playing rugby league, we wouldn't flog them.
Yes, for decades.
Over and over again, like unmercifully flog them.
It's not even close.
No.
Yeah, there's not much else there. There's talks on a different topic here that a predicted New South Wales team's been released.
Oh, really? Who's in it?
All right. Tedesco, Tuo, Crichton, Matt Burton at centre, Josh Adokar on the wing, the halves of Nico Hines and Mitch Moses.
Okay. What? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah. Junior Paulo, Reece Robson, Regan Campbell-Gillard. In the back row, Liam Martin, Cameron Murray, Isa Yo, and on the bench, Cook, Young, Kaloa Matangi, and Spencer Lanu, and Katoni Staggs as the 18th man.
Man.
I think Luai would work rather well with Hines.
So do I, hey.
And I'd like to see Luai 6, Hines 7. I think that would work. And I'm not shitting on Moses. I don't think we can blame Mitch Moses too much for what happened in game 2.
No.
He was actually trying stuff out there. Sure, it didn't work, but he was having a crack. He was trying to do something other than the stupid game plan they had. But because no one else is aware to it, nothing came of it. And I remember making a tweet saying, you could put anyone you want in that 7 jumper the way they're playing at the moment. It's not going to make a lick of difference because they've all been instructed to play a very specific, very, very limited game.
And I hope everyone saw that between the first and second game. Because in that first game, I didn't really, I wasn't standing up for Cleary with how he played. But then Moses, when you see him come in and it's basically the exact same thing happens. And it's like,
there was no difference.
Yeah. And it's like, this isn't a personnel issue. This is a coaching issue.
Yeah. And I think we can both be very clear that Moses and Cleary have 2 very, very different games when it comes to being a halfback.
100%, yeah.
Cleary's is a lot more sort of old school. He'll take the line on a lot more frequently. Moses is a bit more of the modern halfback where he will drift side to side and find link runners everywhere across the field, and he kicks to corners a lot, which a lot of modern halfbacks do. And he's fine at that. But he had to go more out of his normal method to play this role where he basically just got the ball and kicked to corners. He wasn't given a role to rove too much, and so he wasn't able to find any forwards to run onto any passes or anything. He tried different grubbers and stuff like that, trying to get something to happen, but because no one's aware of it, because they haven't been training for it, it all got diffused rather easily.
And the other thing is, too, that the defence knows that, like, your halfback is going to be right there every single time. He's not going to be in the middle of the field. He's not going to go to the other side of the field. He's always going to be right here in front of me. And if he's going to kick into the corner, like, there's only so much room that this guy's able to work with.
Yeah.
And it just, no one shut down New South Wales halves better than New South Wales game plan.
Exactly. And given that Luai and Hines both like to move around a bit on the field, they don't just park on one side of the field. They do move around a bit. Hines more than Luai does. But Luai will not just stay parked out on the edge. He'll move into the middle every now and then. And especially if he's got to do playmaking stuff, he'll drift over to the other side. But Hines will move around a fair bit. So there's a fair chance they'll link up more often than not, much like Cleary does with Luai at club level. And so I think that would be better for both of them. I don't know what you do with Tedesco. I don't think he doesn't deserve to be there, but the game plan's got to change so that he's not getting the ball so often. Like the best you get out of Tedesco is when he's used at the right time, because he's a very strong ball runner, got good leg drive. But if you're giving him the ball all the time, they're just going to park a strong defender on him, like a second rower, like they have done, and they'll shut him down. It's easy to shut down. So you can see what they do in that area. But yeah, surprised that they've not got Luai in there.
How about the fact that Campbell Graham is going to be overlooked? Brad Fittler has once again not picked a centre in the centres.
No. Well, he's got a bit closer this time. At least he's picked someone who's played a fair bit of centre there.
Yeah, but it's just insane.
It is. It's nuts.
It's insane. I could, if you're going to look at it as a case of, okay, this is a dead rubber, let's try some things. If it was down to that, I would say, okay, chuck Burton in there. Let's see how he goes. But then I wouldn't have Tedesco at fullback.
No, that's right. If you want Burton in there and you're going to have Luai in there, then you've got to drop Moses.
Mm-hmm.
Put Burton at 5'8", Hines at 6, Hines at 7, or you put Burton on the bench. Leave Moses there, Hines to fullback.
Even if they had have gone with Hines and Burton in the halves, to see how it works, see how we go, I would have been like, fine. We've got to try something.
Well, a kicking game would be good. Because, Burton and his bombs.
Oh, his bombs, they're like nothing I've ever seen before.
Oh. Imagine if the way the commentators go on about Burton's bombs were around when Ricky Stewart was playing, and all they talked about was his kicks for touch. Like, there's a whole other range of skill set that Ricky Stewart's got and uses a lot. But no, let's just focus on the one thing he does really good all the time and ignore all the other stuff that he does really good as well, if not better.
So stupid. It's so weird when commentators just get stuck on something. Like that fucking, you brought it up earlier when Alex Twelve scored, right?
Yeah.
I didn't care because I'm not a fucking virgin, It's like, who gives a shit? It was the weirdest thing. There's all this celebration and stuff. I'm like, who gives a fuck?
It's ridiculous. But this thing about Burton and his bombs, I haven't seen this much adoration of someone's one specific kick since Pat Richards at his kickoffs.
It was the same thing. Oh, look at his kickoffs. It's like, just calm down,
He's just kicking the ball, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Imagine rugby league commentators, the ones who go off about Burton's bombs, were commentating a soccer game. They'd be hoarse. He's kicked the ball every fucking time, all game. He kicked the ball. Oh my god, they can all do it.
It's so crazy. It's like, who had a really big boot on him was Braithen Astor. He had a fucking huge boot on him. Some people are really weird. They can just, for whatever reason, like most people can kick a ball at about the same level, but there's some people, and I don't know if it's technique, I don't know if it's how they drop the ball, and if for whatever reason they send that fucker further than everyone else. Braithen Astor was one of those people. He had a boot on him.
But let's be honest, there's a lot of things you'd be critical of Anasta for, but his kicking game was fucking impressive for a long time.
Yeah, was.
It wasn't just the high kicks either. He had a big boot. Like, there'd be times when the Roosters would be, trapped in their own 20, 30 metre mark. They just hoik the ball out to a nasser, and he'd just clear that fucking thing, and they'd automatically get back into the game, even if they had a bad set. And that was something it's a great asset. Yeah, I hadn't seen someone like that since Stewart. He can get his side out of trouble just with one kick. That's a
kick, yeah.
Hell of a bloody feature to have.
I'm trying to think of anyone else. Like Fittler, for a few years there, had a big boot, but it wasn't like an Astas. An Astas was the next level sort of thing.
Yeah, he just timed it so well. I think it was just a sweet timing. Yeah, some people have got that going on.
It's so weird, hey?
Yeah. But that's an interesting lineup.
Yeah, the other thing is the dude from Penrith. What's his name again? Oh, Spencer Leniu. I don't get this thing where Spencer Leniu gets pissed off in a game and then all of a sudden he's a fucking Origin player.
That's what it takes, you know. You got to be able to throw a punch.
Yeah, and it makes zero sense, and it's like, remember they did this with Marco Mealy, where Marco Mealy come into first grade and he was a very good player. Had a little bit of skill about him, not heaps, but a little bit of skill. He had a few things there he could work on, and they were just like, oh, this fucking guy's crazy. He's just a battering ram. He's so angry and stuff, and they just push him into that little square box.
I wonder how much of that started after he belted Bryce Gibbs.
Probably, huh?
Because that was crazy. Gibbs hit him with a hard tackle and stood over him and gave him a bit of lip. And then Mealy fucking knocked him out on the next hit up.
Mealy blasted him into next fucking whatever. There's been a few ones like that where there was one on the weekend. Who did that? It might have been this weekend or last weekend. Oh, you know what it was? It was the Panthers players where Storm played like Warbrick. He come up and he went to put on a hit on one of the Panthers players, and it was just like got switched the fuck off.
Yeah, I do remember seeing that. I think from memory it was a legal hit.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah. Every so often you'll see something like that happen, and it's like, oh man, that wasn't good.
That was good. What else has been going on? I don't think there's much more else that's been happening.
I think we've covered most things. The only other thing I guess we haven't talked about is Luke Brooks. Luke Brooks is no longer going to be a Tiger. He's going to be in that fucking weird collection of players that the Manly Seagulls put together.
Yeah, this is reminding me of a tweet I made.
Yes.
Okay, I put together a squad of 13 players.
Yeah.
Of players who Manly has signed from the West Tigers.
Okay.
Kevin McGuinness, John Hopewadi, Terry Hill, Moses Sully, Nick Bradley Kualalawa.
Wow, they signed him. I can't remember that.
Curtis Sheridan, Luke Brooks, they're your halves.
Mm-hmm.
Martin Tapau, Shane Dunley, Josh Alloway, David Gower, Kelma Tuolangi, Aaron Woods. Now, Gower and Woods are the only two that they didn't sign directly from the Tigers, but those blokes did make their NRL debut with the Tigers.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a lot, hey?
Yeah. It's. Who's your favourite player out of that group?
Yeah, the most effective one might be Hopewadi, hey?
I think Tapau is probably the best of them.
You reckon? See, I thought Tapau when he went there is pretty so-so.
Yeah, but he was the best of them.
I don't know.
It's too early to tell on Aaron Woods. He's only been there for a few games.
Yeah. I'm going to put the pen through him, Andrew.
I remember putting that together going, wow, that's all bad.
The fact that they signed Brooks to a 4-year deal, it made me want to slap someone at the Sea Eagles.
I'm going to say this, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably the best decision Brooks could have made for what's left of his career. Because as I've said before, he needs a halfback who will do everything. And he's just going to be someone who does have all the skills, right? Because he does. He's a genuine playmaker, but he doesn't do the talking. He can't organise shit, but he can run plays if they're taught to him. He's got a good passing game. He's got a good kicking game. He's definitely got a good running game. So if there's plenty to work with there. I think DC will work really well with him because he'll be doing most of the work. And we saw last year when Brooks was at 6 and Hastings was at 7, Brooks did look better. And that's alongside Hastings. And DC's like 50,000 levels above Hastings. He's going to make Brooks look like $1 million.
I just worry when you've got a player and their big plus is that if somebody else does everything else.
I absolutely get it.
Yeah.
But I think at this stage too, Brooks is also someone who is not going to give the coach, the management any grief. He's a good boy. Whereas Schuster has been giving him no amount of grief apparently. And they just want to end their time with him. Plus, Schuster's costing them more than Brooks.
They re-signed Schuster. Did you not hear that?
No, if they re-signed him, what the fuck are they going to do with him?
I think it's a $2.5 million contract.
Oh, that's worse than the Brooks deal. Do you not agree with that? They've signed Brooks on $700,000 a year or something like that. I heard.
I think it's all bad. I
would take Brooks on $700,000 a year than that deal they've done with Schuster. That's worse. Because where are they going to put Schuster now? Put him back in the second row and do what? Who the fuck pays that much for a second rower?
When he does, I'd like to see him do something. Hey, it'd be good if he did something, Schuster.
That's got to be the worst deal in the NRL at the moment.
Yeah,
what's he achieved, and he's already getting that money?
Yeah, I don't get it.
Fuck.
I don't get it.
Bad luck, Manly.
Yeah, see what I mean? Their collection of players is fucking strange.
The only way the Brooks deal works is they got rid of Schuster. I thought that's what had happened. I thought they said, yep, Schuster, you're gone. We've brought Brooks in. He's a replacement.
No.
They've kept Schuster as well.
Yeah.
And given him a pay rise.
Yes.
A significant one.
Yes.
Fuck. Well, Brooks has come to the club for $400,000 less than what he's currently on.
Do you think partway through next year, DCE starts saying,
No.
You don't?
No. Mate, DCE knows he's got a place in that team on top dollar for as long as he fucking well wants it, especially if those are the replacement options. Because if that's their long-term plan, is that DCE goes and the replacement halves are going to be Brooks and Schuster. Spoon.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Spoon.
Keep in mind though, they're coached by Anthony Seibold. So yeah,
they're going to have Tom Trbojevic playing half the games every year.
Exactly. See, they've got a weird lineup. Fucking street clothes, so he doesn't play, right? You got Brooks, who's a great halfback when someone's playing halfback instead. Schuster, who I'd like to see him do something. I don't get it. DCE, fantastic player. I'm calling it now. Okay, I'm going to call it now. I'm calling my shot. Round 12 next year, DCE is going to ask for a release to a Queensland club. He wants to go home to a Queensland club.
Oh, you know what would be great is if the Tigers signed him.
Imagine that. They don't have that sort of foresight, hey?
You know what would be absolutely amazing?
Mm-hmm.
This would get me back on board with the Tigers.
Okay.
If they went and signed DCE and Ben Hunt. Just 2-year deals for both of them.
I'm trying to think if that would work.
That would work because Hunt can play 6.
they're both fantastic players, but I've just got visions of the Knights running through that West Tigers forward pack today. And
oh, yeah, no, the forward pack is still trash, but
yeah.
that would be an upgrade in the halves.
If DCE was on the market right now, I think he's a million plus player. Easy.
He's 1.4.
Yeah. I think the only halfback, I'd probably say Clear is probably still worth more, and that's as much about his age than anything.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and Ben Hunt's probably not going to be far behind either, given that he can play 6 and he can cover 9 as well. Not that he wants to, but he can.
Yeah. My point being that I don't think DCE has to worry about the money side of things.
Oh God, no.
But
if Manly's willing to spend that amount of money on Schuster, though, DC's going, well, I might just ask him for $2 million a year.
Yeah, could do. It's just shocking to me. And DCE, like, he's got plenty of petrol in the tank too. He's not looking anything like a player that's losing a step or anything like that. And I think he's going to have a game that's going to age well as well.
Yeah.
I'm calling it. What I say, round 12 next year. DC. Round 12. DC is going to be like, I want to go home to family up in Queensland.
You reckon he's off to the Titans? He did look at him once before, didn't he?
He did, yeah. When's Reynolds off contract at the Broncos?
End of next year?
End of next year. Interesting.
Yeah. It is.
Reynolds looks good if they go into the finals and Reynolds gets injured, like he does a lot, unfortunately, into the finals. Let's just see what happens. Let's just see what happens.
Let's do that.
Adam Reynolds, West Tigers, fucking 5-year contract.
Make it 7.
What, 2024?
Yeah, we're signing until 2030.
Yeah.
He might be 42. Who cares?
Fuck it.
Give him another 3 years at the end.
Yeah.
And you know what? They'll still have David Nofoaluma on the books. Hey, mate, David Nofoaluma, a Tiger for life. Oh, how? Oh, we gave him a 40-year contract. He should die before it ends.
There's just some players that when they say, oh, he's got a life contract, your first question is why?
I mean, unless of course they're 35 and you've given them a 1-year extension.
Yeah, true.
But that won't happen.
Did you see the news that that because the Titans sacked their coach, that Big Tino and David Fifita have clauses in their contract that would allow them to leave the Titans?
Wow.
Mm.
I think Tino would be nuts to leave because he probably won't go too bad under Hasler. Hasler does like roving forwards.
Yeah, and I have a feeling too that he actually really likes it there. It's just a feeling I've got, not based on anything other than I think if he was one of those players that didn't like it there, he would already be making noises about leaving. But yeah, I just think that this is part of his contract, whereas David Fifita, who's had some few good weeks for the Titans, yes. I don't think he'll leave, but I wouldn't be shocked if there were a few phone calls made.
I don't think he'll leave purely because I don't think another club will take him for the money he wants.
David Fifita, West Tigers.
Lock it in.
You'd take David Fifita, wouldn't you?
And he'll be wearing 6.
Can you imagine how fat he would get at the West Tigers? My God.
It would only take him an off-season.
Yeah. And I'm not even
turn up to pre-season training and go, wow, he's 145 kilos. How'd that happen?
He's got the hunger back.
He really does.
I'm not even saying that, in like bagging him. I'd be like, yeah, David, take the money and get fat, Why
not just make sure you sign for a long period of time? You want that long-term recurring coin.
Yeah. It's interesting, though, that the Titans had clauses in players' contracts that if Holbrook gets sacked, that they become available on the player market. It's just, I don't know, it's just strange. Strange to me.
Yeah.
I could understand it if it was, say, a Wayne Bennett. Like, say somebody goes to the and I know that they're having a coaching change coming up at the Dolphins, but if you go to play under Wayne Bennett and Wayne Bennett gets sacked, I would get that, you know?
Yeah.
But not Justin fucking Holbrook.
No, there's only a few coaches out there where you'd have that sort of a clause and an attachment to a coach because the coach probably helps to draw you there just through what they've achieved. Bellamy, Robinson.
Bellamy.
But yeah, that's nuts at Holbrook, Adam.
Yeah. Like, I would be surprised even if it was, like, say, maybe Ivan Cleary with his son, but other players even. If Ivan Cleary got sacked for whatever reason.
No, you've got to put Cleary in the same group. I mean, he's won as many premierships as most of the rest of them now.
True, but I'd be surprised if they if, say, he decided to leave the club at the end of the year, that it's like, oh, well, there's 6 Panthers players that had clauses in their contract that if he leaves, they can leave too. It'd be surprising to me. It's just a very strange clause to have in the contract to me.
Yeah, it feels like one of building up a clique group to work against the club.
Yeah,
you can't sack the coach because all these players are going to leave.
That is really interesting, Andrew. I'd never thought of that, hey?
It's one way of a coach sort of solidifying his place by using the players against the club.
Yeah,
yeah,
it is. Wow.
I think Sheen's had that in place when his first stint with the Tigers. There are a handful of players there that said, "Oh, if he gets the sack," I think Benji might have been one of them.
Some 4D chess stuff.
Yeah. And so I think it might have been something because there was a lot of criticism of Sheens in those last 3 or 4 years. And it died down when they made the finals in 2010, 2011. Mm-hmm. But 2012, it came back really, really strong of Sheens, and people were starting to lose a lot of faith in him and they didn't want him around anymore. Mm-hmm. So it was always sort of probably released by Sheens himself because he does like people in the media. Mm-hmm. And he does like a leak. Mm-hmm. Where you just hear little things like, oh yeah, Benji Marshall's got a clause in his contract where he can be free to negotiate with other clubs if the coach gets sacked. And the club's going, oh fuck, we don't want to lose Benji. I've got to keep the coach. And the club decided eventually it got the balls to sack him. And I think Benji went wandering the year after. Went over to Union, then come back and went to the Dragons. But you just go, yeah, well, sometimes you just got to take the hit and see what happens. And I dare say that's what they probably thought. Oh, Benji won't go anywhere, he'll stay. And Benji went, fuck that.
Oh, fair. I got it with Benji. I feel as though he was at a weird point in his career, though, where he played some of the best football I've ever seen, and unfortunately he was in a side that was doing nothing. Yeah. And then we talked about this earlier, where he's in that point where he had to restructure his game so that it wasn't just all about athleticism, it was about other things, and I think that he really struggled with that more than most players have.
Yeah, game management, game control, that sort of stuff. Something he genuinely learned after spending time with Wayne Bennett.
Yeah, and by the way, by the end of his career was so good that, like, when his career was over and he had that final season at Souths, I was looking at him thinking, man, I'd love to have him at Penrith, just for all of that experience. And if there's an injury in the halves, we've got this guy who is just this wealth of football knowledge and can run a team around the field without even touching the ball at that point. And, like, he become a master at it. So, but I think that transition for him was harder than it probably have been for any superstar that I've watched.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. He struggled with it for quite a while. And it took a top-line coach to help him out with it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what goes on there. I'm surprised that Holbrook had that much of a hold over the players.
I still can't believe that. I still can't believe they re-signed Fafita themselves. They had the chance to be rid of this problem and they re-signed him. I know it wasn't to the same amount, but geez, he's not a winning player, hey?
No.
Like on the weekend, you probably saw that try scored where he's running at the line, two of them hit him, and he's just so big and strong, he just passes it out to the winger, and the winger scores. Like, when you watch him do stuff like that, it's like, my God, this guy is a monster.
Yeah.
But it's just everything else he's not good at.
Yeah, his defensive positioning at times is Nofaluma-like.
Yeah.
Like, you're a forward. It's like, majority of what you do is tackling and defensive, being in the right spot. How do you get that wrong by that much?
How does a guy that can run over everyone on a footy field not, like, poleaxing people in defence?
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's crazy. He only poleaxes him when he's got a ball under his arm.
Yeah. Like, even Kickow was a very good ball runner for a while, but then the defence got there, and he was probably more devastating in defence when he was hitting players. Like, when he was hitting them, they were all staying hit. Didn't matter who you are. But Fafita's just never got that.
No. Oh, one day he might get the... he'll probably just turn to Dave Taylor again. I think everybody's waiting for that to happen.
Yeah. When he joins the West Tigers, it'll be...
Alrighty. Lock that in. I think we've pretty much got everything covered for the week.
Yeah, it's been a good episode, hey?
We've been all over the world on this one.
Yeah.
We've even dove into the books over in England.
Yeah, still don't really know what happened, but it happened.
Yeah, their money bucket's got a hole in it somewhere.
Yeah. And they've got 15 different buckets.
That's right. And they've all got holes.
Mm.
It's just a matter of trying to get them all positioned in the right spot so they leak into each separate bucket so they don't lose them too much.
I would just love to know what the last bucket is, because the money just
it'll be someone holding out their pocket, surely.
It all goes into Odsal.
Odsal. That's where it is. Off to Odsal. They've got to start using that ground more.
I would still like to know what happened there. The biggest mystery in rugby league right now is, like, who owns it? What are they going to do with it? And, no one can tell you.
You know who owns it?
Who?
Donald Trump. I have all the best stadiums.
It had the biggest crowd. You should have seen the crowd. I wasn't there. I wasn't born.
We had all the people, the best people. They're all here.
They were packed in tight. They were on the roof, but we got them in there.
We had them on the hill. They're up the road. They're everywhere.
Now we've got a track around the outside. Not ideal.
The in-goal's got a hill. It's got the best hill. We have all the best hills on the ground.
The in-goals are made of carpet. Not great, but still, you can score tries. I've seen it myself.
But of all the grounds that got carpet, we've got the best carpet.
The carpet matches the drapes. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, that's a title for the episode. We'll leave that there.
Oh shit.
Alrighty, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure you check us out on the socials on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You know them all. One day I might remember them and I'll recite them all again. But if you need to know, you can go back to an old episode.
Twitter might not be the best one at the moment, though, with their limits that they put in.
Yeah, although the last tweet's pretty good.
Yeah, the last tweet just made everyone think about me wearing a thong.
Thongs.
Well,
plural.
Either one.
Plural, yeah. Which everyone wants to see. Anyway, you can find LeagueFreak on Twitter at SweetCheeks. Check him out. Give him a follow. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure to check us out on the socials, and we'll catch you all next time.